Are you a speaker trying to get gigs? Are you a booker trying to get your speakers on panels and events or give keynote addresses? Then you need to look into the one-stop platform that does this for you. Ovations with a Z. It's the first online platform to simplify the talent finding and booking process for virtual events. Go to www.ovations.com, and again, that's with a Z, and there you can find a variety of speakers, including myself. And if you're a booker, use the promo code CURT5, that's CURT number 5, and get a 5% discount for booking any speaker, including yours truly. If your company is interested in reaching an audience of AI professionals and decision makers to promote your event or product, we have sponsorship opportunities on this podcast. Go to RealmIQ/sponsors. Hi, I'm Kurt Doty with RealmIQ. This is our podcast, RealmIQ Sessions, where we talk about everything AI with AI leaders from around the world. Please give us a follow or subscribe, please. Today's guest is Pattie Kettle. She's an experienced digital marketer, a community builder, and AI evangelist. She is passionate about Greentech, Cleantech, and all things AI. When she's not online marketing, she's busy playing bass guitar, riding her e-bike, and being kind, something we need more of in this world. So welcome, Pattie. Let's get into it. Tell us about yourself.
So yes, I'm happy to be here, and it's always a pleasure to hear what you have to say in our AI Avengers group, which I love.
That's a fun group, yes. So tell me how, when AI happened just over a year ago, what were you doing and what did you do? What was your take on it? And it seems like you're an evangelist now, so it must have had an effect. So tell me emotionally what was going through your mind at that time.
Well, when in November of 2022, when it hit that we could do things with AI and MLL, machine language learning, without being a coder, that is as it was for everybody. And I just got interested in it. And I remember talking with my boyfriend. He's like, well, if you're interested in it, someone's got to be an AI expert at your company. Why not you? And I'm like, yeah, why not me? So I dove straight in, got a subscription to Chat GPT. That was on like 3.0. Now I have 4.0,
Yeah.
which is awesome. 3.5 is okay, but But there are people who have been following this for much longer. For example, MACON, that's a marketing artificial intelligence conference that I was lucky enough to attend in 2023. And they had said that in 2022, they had like 250 attendees. And in 2023, they had 750, and they fully expect, in the triple digits next year, because
Sure.
everyone's catching on to this. So I liked playing with it and, seeing what I could. I'm a former freelance content writer, so I know a bit about SEO. I know a lot about digital marketing and AI's implications for being able to do quality work at scale is fascinating to me. The other thing too is it kind of makes all of us videographers, which is a very interesting and scary thing.
Yeah, for good and bad.
Right,
You know,
right.
I've been in video since the late 80s. So I have a point of view on what is good video, what is bad video.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Not everyone has been a cinematography aficionado and knows what's good and is just, yeah, we all go in and do things. But the excitement is that it opens up so much, but it's also scary because I'm not sure.
But what scares you? What scares
What
you?
scares me is the ethical and moral implications
Okay.
of AI. And I know people kind of mocked Elon Musk for saying that, but I do think his heart is in the right place. And I don't think it was just like a corporate grab when he's like, we need to slow down and think about this.
But
Um,
It was a corporate grab because then he
I think
launched
it was a
Grok.
corporate
I mean,
grab.
come on. He didn't stop on Grok when he made that statement. Behind the scenes, he was going for it. So,
Starting his own AI company.
yeah.
Right.
And he was
Yeah. Well,
the initial
I
investor in open AI. So
full disclosure, I quit Twitter when he bought it. So full
good for
disclosure.
you.
Yeah. So I'm open-minded, but I'm not necessarily a devotee. And I think too that whole kerfuffle with Sam Altman and OpenAI, where everyone's like, what is going on? What is happening? Well, what was happening was Sam Altman, I don't think he himself predicted how much this would explode. And he had set up the board for his company as a nonprofit board.
Right.
And it struck me that the board members were treating it as a nonprofit. And it just reached that tipping point where it's not a nonprofit, it's a
Yeah.
freaking $1 billion
Yeah.
company.
They do have
And
shareholders. So
exactly. And I'm not sure the mindset of managing a nonprofit is the mindset that is going to hopefully, touch wood, ethically scale the company. I mean, it remains to be seen, but I certainly prefer their tool to a lot of other tools out there. And it certainly seems like other tools are playing catch up to what they have going on. They'll surpass it. It's going to happen. And I do think Microsoft is brilliant for like stepping in and saying, well, okay, we'll just throw money at you and
yeah.
go right ahead.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
think there's a race that is competition for who can do the most features, the best features, rolling up multimodal approaches within one platform. This is what you're seeing now, where you used to have to, what I call platform hop around to
oh
like
god,
the
yeah,
results that you wanted. And
yeah.
now everyone's trying to consolidate that, whether they're what I call all tech or big tech. That is a goal because it's one of the more frustrating things. But you're seeing this hockey stick where all
Yes.
the competitors are just riding that wave up, and they're not going to stop unless regulation slows them down. But I think regulation is a good thing. I've said this
Completely
many times
concur.
before, but we didn't have regulation when social media came out 20 years ago. Happy anniversary, Facebook.
Yeah.
And look where we are, and Zuckerberg's, apologizing to families in front of
Really?
the
You think that was an
congressional
apology?
hearing.
All he said was, I'm sorry for what you went through. I did
Yeah,
not
it
hear
was,
that. I'm
yeah, it
sorry
was
for what my
half-assed.
company did.
Yeah, it wasn't genuine. It was disingenuous, what have you. But we didn't have regulation with crypto. We didn't have regulation with NFTs, all kinds of fraud and thievery going on. And now,
But
years after all the damage, look at FTX. Now they're saying, oh, we need to regulate it. And it's like, well, okay, so here's AI, generative AI, just over a year into its really consumer iteration.
right.
And the world is talking about, some bumper lanes, some controls, some type of guidelines so that it can be ethical and moral and legal. So I welcome that legislation and
Yes.
regulation because it was never there in the last 20 years. So, let's do it right. Right.
Well,
If
circling
government can
back on
help,
crypto,
like, God bless them. So
right.
we'll see.
Circling back on crypto and NFTs, I'm unsure on NFTs. Crypto, not a fan, but I am a fan of blockchain. And I think blockchain has immense capabilities and possibilities for protecting your digital identity, also for voting. And I often feel that all I can base it on is here in the US with whatever this FUBAR situation is in our government. They don't understand the technology, the Senate, Congress, blah, 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 well enough to understand how to educate the public on what could work for them. So, I mean, I'm kind of getting on my soapbox with that. So, but I do want to say, like, NFTs, unsure. Crypto, not a fan. But blockchain has immense potential for protecting people's right to vote if democracy can survive, and also keeping your digital identity as something under your individual control, which is what cybersecurity and all the, all that is all about.
Yeah, it's a big promise, not well understood nor well executed. But the promise of it was the DAO, Digital Autonomous Organizations, right?
Mhm.
What I find interesting is that Sam Altman said you're going to have one person companies that could be valued at $1 billion because
Right.
of the GPT store,
Yeah.
right? And that is like the closest thing to a reality of what a DAO truly is, or it
Mhm.
could be. One person, no coders, able to build it, whatever the theme or concept is, resonates with an audience,
Yeah.
and it takes off, right? That's
I would like to
fantastic.
find that personally.
Well, we all have the power, right, to actually
Right.
to do it.
I would
So,
like to invent that. I'm not sure what the concept is that'll resonate.
yeah.
No,
But
no, that
what's interesting is that the GPT store that launched, go back to 2007 with the birth of touch, and App Store from
yep,
Apple was came into being and said, "No, we're going to make a marketplace of these apps and we're going to get 30% of the revenue." Well, here the GPT store launched with really no business model savvy like Apple had.
right.
And right now there's I think 1.8 million apps in the App Store. I think 3 million apps have been developed for GPT, but only 159,000 have been approved and can be found. So the
Ah,
potential the potential is there, but at the same time I think they need to catch up with the business savvy that Apple had, even though there's complaints. Apple just went down to 27% share versus 30% take on everyone's revenue. That's why they're one of the richest companies in the world.
right.
So, there's all this potential. And I think it does harken back to the promise of blockchain and decentralization. That's the other
Yeah.
term that, but the big difference is decentralization was taking power away from big tech and giving it to what I call alt tech, these smaller
Yeah.
companies, and empowering the little guy, the little person to
But
be
did they?
to,
Were they
now,
empowering them, or were they just using
well, I mean,
them? I
that's
don't know.
that was the goal. I mean, that
Yeah.
was the philosophy. That's why, everyone was gangbusters on it. But here we are with OpenAI, Google, Microsoft. They're big tech. So big tech is fully in control and have poured the billions of dollars into developing, you know, all
The
the
race, right?
technology,
The
and
AI race.
everyone else is kind of building their technology on top of. I think it'll be interesting once more ventures are created that don't rely on scraping the entire internet, and they're small language models, not large language models, and
Well, and a lot of people
controlled
don't
environment.
understand, right? They don't understand that Claude and ChatGPT and other tools, they only go so far on the internet. They don't go to like right this second. And I think people forget that. I think it's been interesting. I'm on LinkedIn a lot because I'm like in this figure out my life mode. And Claude is like, let us help you with your writing. And I just feel like the Brady Bunch, like, sure, Jan, because Claude, without a good human who knows how to think correctly and edit and put things together, it, garbage in, garbage out. Like, you can say you're doing that, but it's not optimal.
Yeah,
And
what I really want to talk to you about is you had experience within the company that you worked for building an AI operation. And I think,
yes,
we talk a lot about evangelism and education, but until it truly happens from an organizational perspective inside these corporations, it's really it's going to be half baked and not successful. So tell me how you envisioned or what you recommended or what you built as an AI operation to help
Oh,
the
sure.
company?
No, I knew, well, it was for an association, and I knew we needed a policy. And I also knew our end users were pretty unsophisticated about technology. And so I expressed an interest with that. I pitched it to the CEO and said, hey, I'd like to explore AI and get the company on board with AI and help us make a policy. So my first step was to set up biweekly meetings with a couple of departments. And it was very interesting because one of the departments where I had proposed the idea that this was a department dependent on spreadsheets, mega spreadsheets. And I had pitched, with AI, you can load that in and load in your data, and it you don't have to spend all these manual hours. And that caused great upset to a member of that department, which was kind of interesting. Like I saw it
What,
play out
what,
real
what were
time.
the concerns? Sorry.
Uh, I think just fear. And this, what shocked me, Kurt? This was a young person who was like the people who were all into AI and open minded and curious and wanting to know more were not Gen Z and not so much millennials, a little bit of millennials, but I just found that interesting that like people who are Gen X, which I am, and up were like, oh my God, this is great. Let's explore it. Let's see what we can do. And people who were younger were being like the Luddites, like, I don't know, it's so scary. So I do know though that our graphic artist on the team, they embraced it fully and they were so into it. So I first set up biweekly meetings and made like a little committee. And I didn't want to, it was very open-ended. I'm like, this is new. Nobody knows what's going on. I just want us to meet. I want you to play with tools and let's see what's happening and see what tools we could use in our jobs. So most people were very favorable with that. And then we ended up making a Slack channel too, because it was happening so fast that you could like plop stuff in every day. And I wrote the generative AI policy. It got approved by the legal team. It got implemented by the board. It is, to my knowledge, what will be used. But it is very interesting to kind of see in real time who understands what AI can do and who just resists. And I think that's what I found most
And it was
stunning. But I would say
it
for an
was
AI,
it was early on too, right?
it was. This
Yeah.
was like in November of
Oh
2022.
yeah. Well,
Like right after.
yeah, it was everyone was, their chin was scraping from their jaws being dropped to the ground and trying to grasp what are the
What
implications.
is happening?
Yeah. It's interesting, I've advised companies that, become an advocate. Like you got to have one person like you who said, I think we should be pursuing this. And it sounds like you had sold it in to the senior team, if not the C-suite or, whatever that structure was, that gave you permission or license to actually conceive and write some guidelines in terms of what to do and have some regular meetings about it. I think all that is excellent. What I also see that you did was that you had a human-centered AI approach to reorganizing the company, or what I call the AI org of a company.
Right. Right.
And I think that's what's really important. And I think in the early days, people were saying, oh, there's going to be this role called the chief prompt officer. And I've said before, it's like, yeah, I think that's bullshit because
Right.
it's really not about prompting. There's been an evolution of how you interact with these platforms. It's all going to voice and not something you type or need to have cryptic language around how to get your
Right.
aspect ratio right. But so that said, it's not this a C-suite person. It is someone who has the ethical and legal and moral concerns,
Yeah.
but not necessarily a background in technology. So not a coder, but
Right.
someone who can guide an interdepartmental approach towards collaborative effort to conquer this and integrate it through embracing the technology and and finding out what departments can use it immediately, what departments are going to need more help to learn and embrace it, but with a common understanding with that human center
Oh yeah, it's
guiding
critical.
this digital ecosystem
Yeah,
that is something new within an organization. It's never been in a kind of a tiered org chart. You've seen org charts for companies that are all flat and
yeah,
terraced. And I see it something a lot more circular with that human in the center and interacting with all departments. And that circular synergy is what kind of blows the silos away from the departments,
yeah.
and everyone's committed to figuring this out together. And there is no hierarchy. Technology came out a year ago. How can anyone have hierarchy within an organization? I know more than you about ChatGPT. It's like, really? Because
Well, we had a whole gamut because we had a staff member who was into music, and so they would just like play with it and see what it was. Then our IT, we had a member of the IT team on the committee, and they had some serious ethical concerns, and it's just yeah, I it's hard for me to grasp why like I don't know. To me, it seems crystal clear that if you think clearly and you know what you are asking it to do, it can do it. But it doesn't do it well. It still needs the human
oh, yeah.
element. And the biggest like preparation, like there's all these articles on LinkedIn of AI for English majors, whatever. I'm like, we're the people, I was an English teacher. We're like the people best positioned to use this because to be able to write clearly and cleanly and concisely, you need to think clearly and cleanly and concisely. And, you know, I know your background is illustrator and more the images, and I think that's great. And I completely agree with you that, like, just because everyone can make video or can do something doesn't mean it's quality and that
No. Yeah. Yeah,
discernment.
you're talking about the sea of sameness that has
Yeah.
happened and the noise. So there's a lot of noise
Yes.
of people just playing and putting it up on LinkedIn with no purpose.
Yes.
What I've tried to do is like, okay, I'm trying to, I mean, I've embraced it into my workflow. Okay. So do I have to put everything up on LinkedIn that, hey, look what I did today? Cool, huh? It's like, no, because I don't need any approval from the
Right.
LinkedIn community. As long as I'm happy and or my clients are happy with the work and
Correct.
I'm amplifying myself and supercharging my creativity, that's what it should be about. And
I
it's
agree.
not. And again, I'm using it on top of like 30 years of branding and marketing. I'm not just a guy who was a drummer in a loser band yesterday, and I discovered a way to paint
Right.
a rainbow pig in the sky,
Right.
for no reason or purpose. So I think people are getting sick of the noise, and they're easily they can easily identify, oh, that's a Mid-Journey thing, that's a DALL-E thing, that's
Right.
Adobe
Oh, I don't know.
Firefly thing.
You're more of an optimist than I am. I'm not sure. And I think,
Well, I mean, it has to get to a point of functionality. Uh,
right,
and I think the land rush to the GPT stores, they're building those with purpose. There's a
right,
reason that they're building them. They have an idea, thesis, something to solve problems, and that's very purposeful, right? To build that. But these other people are just playing and putting it up and doing daily.
it's like finger painting versus like Matisse or,
Yeah, yeah. Look,
I
yeah.
agree.
There's a lot of look, Ma, look what I made, and it's like,
Right,
yeah, who cares? And your mother's not on LinkedIn, so
right. But
get
you know, it
get rid of the
scares
clutter.
me.
So
It's no, but it scares me that that noise gets the amount of attention that it does. I'm hoping that will sift out and not be, look, I use GPT. Blah, blah. It has immense capabilities for workflows, for enhancing the ability to scale, for being able to provide, I mean, I'm a content writer, to being able to provide content in large quantities, but you still need that human,
Sure.
whether it's a video, whether it's an image, whether it's words, you still need that human to look at it and put their own stamp on it. And I guess what I'm talking about is kind of like a stamp of authenticity,
Yes.
of having a definite opinion and a definite perspective, but using, like, I look at ChatGPT as kind of like modeling clay. And I love playing with prompts because I'm like, do blah, 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 blah. And they never give me the best answer.
No,
I mean,
no.
it's going to be like,
You have to mold
fun,
it.
but it's never anything that I don't need to put thought into and polish and figure out. But the time saver is that it does give you an initial palette to do it, but then the person controlling that palette needs to know what the bleep they're doing. You know, it's not, I don't know. A lot of Journey and DALL-E and the images I see, they look like those old paint by number kits from years and years and years ago. Like that's what they remind me of.
Yeah, because I mean, and when you see the really good people mastering it, it's because you know what, they were an artist to begin with, and
Correct.
they're learning, they're achieving results that's in their head. They're trying to match the results in their head with the results, from
They
these.
have an imagination and they have and it's not just, yeah, they have a definite point of view and vision. This kind of off topic, but maybe not. Like, I just watched the documentary about David Bowie called Moon Age
Oh yeah,
Daydream.
that was
Oh my
fantastic.
God, give that man some GPT,
I
would you?
know, right? That
Too
he
bad
was,
he's no longer with us, but
I know he was 50 years ahead of his time.
he
He
was, and he
was a
had a
genius.
lot to say about like he knew, and he talk about an artist with a vision who never stopped creating,
Yeah, he
and
just
whatever medium
created.
he
Right.
pursued.
Yeah, it's amazing, amazing man, person,
Yes,
musician,
like
artist.
I love him even more after watching that
Oh
documentary.
yeah,
Like,
I had so much more respect than I knew, and my intersection with him was in the 80s and MTV, and that was like 20 years after he'd been singing, and
well, here's
brought up, he knew all the Beatles, I mean, they all knew each other as kids in London. So
John Lennon's that voice on Fame going fame, 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 that thing. No, I think I am proud I'm a child of the 70s because I had some like really progressive teachers in elementary school. And I can remember I used to hang out in the library in sixth grade. I just loved it. Like I loved microfiche and I loved listening to audio tapes and blah, blah, blah. But our librarian loved David Bowie. And I think she even made a comment, or maybe didn't make an overt comment, but he did so much for bringing out acceptability for transgender and gay folks. And I think I wish I could remember the words, but I remember her like putting on some music by him and talking to me about him because she was a fan. And that like stuck as a little germ in my brain. Like, this guy's amazing. He is so ahead of his time. It's insane. But then there's a disadvantage like of being that ahead because nobody knows what the bleep you're doing. Like, what?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
being before your time is not helpful.
yeah.
But looking back, deep appreciation for him.
Absolutely. And for like watching that documentary too, it's like every kid who kind of felt like a weirdo or an outcast. And it's like, no, come on in, join the party. That I digress, but I
Yeah.
do
No,
think
but I think that applies to AI because the technology has empowered a lot of people who were intimidated possibly by not knowing code and thinking they could
yes,
never do these things. Then all of a sudden they're empowered to a level where they're creating cool shit that, they
yes.
they had only dreamed of, and that's cool.
I think so too.
Gives them confidence and an interest and a possible vocation to pursue creativity in whatever respect. So,
I
and
agree.
I am focused on the creativity, the generative AI of things. And yeah, you mentioned my background as an illustrator. I think of myself as an image maker. I've because I've been in branding, I'm also making the image of a brand.
Yeah.
Always constantly figuring out the design world, how that fits with the brand message, whether that's in video or online or social or whatever. But all these tools are helping me be very effective and creative, and I'm going with it. I don't put every creation up on online,
Right.
but I
Right.
again, it's just helping me be more productive, and that's what it's about. And it's I'm not being replaced by a robot. I'm doing 10 times more things than I could before, and I think that's the positive message. And yes, there are evildoers, but I'm hopeful that we can use AI to combat AI.
No, yes, I completely agree. Like someone on our committee, their biggest concern was that AI would soon be able to be creating its own code and maybe it would be nefarious. And I'm a huge Star Trek Next Generation fan, so I always think of the Borg, like the Borg is AI. But I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. I don't know. I ultimately have hope, and I think that humans will recognize that there needs to be a moral compass, there needs to be a true north, there needs to be if everyone, I don't know, this is going to sound preachy, but like if everyone just took kindness as their moral precept and
Yeah.
practiced
Thank
it,
you. Thank you
yeah,
for that.
what a thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great message. We're gonna close here, but I wanted to give you a minute to promote. It seems like you have a logo behind you that looks kind of cool. Do you want to talk about AI
Sure.
impact?
Yes, I'm partnering with Haley Wilson at this point in time. We have the great debate coming up on February 13th. So if this publishes after, you can probably catch the recorded version. And I'm doing whatever I can to kind of promote making AI accessible to the masses, but also doing it in an ethical and moral way. So AI impact, I don't think a decision's been made yet on a conference, but we are about Haley calls herself the fairy godmother of AI, and I think she really is. She's connected with me with so many people,
She's
but
fantastic.
it's really about learning about AI and being intellectually curious and wanting to do it in a positive fashion. So AI impact is the branding behind what we're doing. There's some good stuff coming out. She and I are brainstorming, and we've got a podcast coming out soon. We're going to start putting that on a regular basis. So thank you. AI impact. That's
There
our
you go. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much. And I just want to remind people to keep tuning in to RealmIQ sessions. Thanks, Patty.
yes.
And you can find this podcast on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeart Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. So please follow and smash that subscribe button. Patty, we'd love to have you back, and good luck with everything that you're doing. And you're a terrific, positive voice in this world of AI. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Kurt. This has been delightful. I really enjoyed it.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. You can now watch RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Podcasts. Follow and subscribe, people. If your company is interested in reaching an audience of AI professionals and decision makers to promote your event or product, we have sponsorships on this podcast. Go to RealmIQ/sponsors. Thanks to our sponsor, Ovations. That's with a Z. Ovations is the first online platform to simplify the talent finding and booking process for virtual events. Go to www.ovations.com, again with a Z, and there you will find a variety of speakers, including myself. And if you're a booker, use the promo code CURT5, that's CURT number 5, and get a 5% discount for booking any speaker. including myself.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
KurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing and product development.